Hey guys, just wanted to say welcome. My name is Austin DeLay, and I teach Georgia Studies, which is just a form of history in Georgia. And today I'm going to talk to you, my fellow colleagues, and other teachers out there about how you can enhance your classroom with technology. Okay? Why technology matters in not just Georgia studies or history, but in all fields. I put Georgia studies here because that is what I teach, that is what I know, so I'm going to use some examples from Georgia studies. So, an overview of technology is that it's transforming educations and it's making it more engaging to students, accessible, and relevant to their needs. In context, Georgia Studies covers topics like history, geography, and government, which can be enriched with certain interactive tools like interactive maps and virtual tools. So, some statistics is that studies show how integrating technology into teaching increases student engagement by up to 55%. The reason this happens is because pretty much as soon as a kid's born, they know how to use technology. They know to use how I say when they're born, but when they get a little bit older, they know how to use technology. That's all they know. Okay? And if you teach in a middle school or high school classroom, maybe even elementary school, you're seeing it some, you will notice that they are very addicted to their cell phones. So why not integrate them using their cell phones into a lesson? Okay? Relevance for middle school students, technology can bridge the gap between abstract concepts and real world applications. So now when a kid comes up to you and asks you, like, Coach DeLay, how is this relevant to the real world? You can tell them. Key advantages for Georgia Studies and History. Again, I'm focused on the Georgia Studies and History aspect because that is what I teach. Interactive tools like Kahoot and Quizlet bring topics like Georgia Native American cultures to life, not just that in Georgia Studies, but everything. You can use a Kahoot quiz for anything, and the kids love it because they're competitive. Have a reward for the person who finishes in first place on the quiz, meaning they're the people who got the most points. Like that is what kids love, is that little bit of competition. Accessibility. Students with diverse needs can benefit from tools with text to speech and adjustable font sizes. In other words, if you have a student with an IEP, they can benefit from text to speech, especially in a place where I work. Some kids do not read at the same reading level as their grade level. So that text to speech is very much needed, and those end up being brilliant kids, and they may struggle reading, but their listening skills is off the charts. So when they listen, they remember everything they heard because that's how they used to that's how they learn. Global connection technology can enable comparisons of Georgia history to global events using digital archives like the archives at the Library of Congress. So students can go into and look at digital articles, real primary source articles if it was Georgia Studies. Personalized learning platforms like Google Classroom in the district where I work at, they use Google Classroom. I know ACE uses um, Canva, but Google Classroom is also something that we use that's tailored to helping the kids with their assignments because we can, and it also helps us teachers grade assignments quicker and give feedback easier. Tools for Georgia Studies and History classrooms. I put the picture of the Roman Colosseum here because this is if kids want to look at the Roman Colosseum, say that's something that deals with your lesson, they can use Google Earth and they can actually go and look at that image. That is an image I pulled from Google Earth. Padlet is encouraging collaboration by having students post reflections on the impacts of like the cotton gin to Georgia's economy, or comparing and contrasting Georgia's economy to another state's economy, um, that sort of thing. Um, and that Padlet can be used for like an exit ticket for kids to leave the room. Nearpod, okay, offers students the ability to go on a virtual field trip because some of my kids have never even been on a real vacation, but this gives them a chance to at least go on a virtual field trip to like the Civil War battlefields in Georgia. I would say such as the Chickamauga battlefields, except where I work, we are right down from the Chickamauga battlefield. So that would be an easy field trip to take. Ed Puzzle, turn YouTube videos on Georgia's historical figures into a nice little fun game quiz, such as clips of Jimmy Carter. We have a lot of amazing teachers at where I work that do use Ed Puzzle. It's an incredible device, and kids really enjoy it there. Interactive timelines. One thing I want to use next year is called Tiki Talkie. I want to have kids go in there and construct a timeline from standard 1 all the way to like standard 21. Okay? And when we get to milestones and we have to take the milestone test, they already have that review material there in the form of a timeline. I at least want them to like add something to it every day next year. It's a free interactive timeline tool that kids can use. That's a picture of kind of what it looks like. It's amazing. It's free to use. Okay? Doesn't get much better than that. Digital storytelling assigns students to create narrated videos on events like the Trail of Tears. I did something similar with a play this year where kids could use their phone and record themselves in character with about the founding of Georgia, and they enjoyed that, and plus they got to use their phones. Simulations, reenactment, like I said, I did a play. I had the kids do a play and record it, and that was their reenactment, and they learned a lot from it. That was one of the highest scoring tests collectively I've had for a student group because of that assignment. Addressing barriers. So use free or low cost platforms, because I know you don't want to go out there and spend your own money because you probably have a family of your own or something like that to use your money for. But find platforms that are low cost and would not hurt your bank any to help kids in learning. Canva is, for the most part, free, and you can have kids create infographics using that. I know going through my master's program, I created a lot of infographics using Canva. Training needs. Walker County has a very good training regimen for teachers that helps them evolve their teaching skills through incorporating multimedia like TikTok and stuff like that into their teaching methods. Student equity established learner programs for Chromebooks. Walker County does an amazing job of that. We make sure all of our students, regardless of socioeconomic background, has access to some sort of learning device, whether that be mainly Chromebooks. But just because this whole project's on that I'm going over now is focused on technology, make sure you balance tech with traditional learning, because it does not hurt to have a kid break out the pen and paper and do something on pen and paper. Like, that is perfectly fine. Try and space those out so they do not become overly dependent on that technology that they use. Boosting participation in learning. So interactive polls, tools like Poll Everywhere can assess student opinions during discussions. So you can use these polls to discuss like Georgia's role in the civil rights movement, or a poll on the different battles in Georgia or something like that. Augmented reality. Apps like Civilization AR can help students explore Georgia's natural resources. Augmented reality and VR are very, very awesome and amazing because it gives kids a sense of discovery and adventure for them. Debates platforms like Flip, which I believe Flip has been changed to something else now. I believe someone bought out Flip, but it's still on. Flip is still on the Google Store. It's just under a different name now. I can't remember what that name is. But in using Flip, you can host debates on controversial historical topics. Like in Georgia Studies, it would be like the Three Governor controversy, or Jimmy Carter's presidency, or Andrew Johnson's abuse of power during his presidency, stuff like that. Podcast, you can have students create a podcast at one point and post that podcast on a media outlet and just have it set to private, or don't, just wherever you want to do there, for kids to be able to go and do that podcast. Next is district training. So if you're a teacher, be willing to participate in training and professional development sessions. Like in Walker County where I work, I go to professional development sessions all the time on different things. In my school, in fact, we have something called WWE. It's where a teacher goes and they give a lesson over stuff that helps them teaching, whether that's love and logic based lessons or technology integration like this. It's a wonderful thing, and it's helped grow my repertoire of knowledge when it comes to teaching. Safeguarding student success, it's always impossible to follow FERPA guidelines and make sure that student data is protected, of course. Ensure all students have a device and have access to that technology. Cultural sensitivity, use diverse resources that reflect Georgia's rich history. Don't just focus on a certain history. Make sure you're equitable to all historical knowledge. Balanced use, integrate offline activities like historical role playing with digital tasks. Historical role playing I'll get to at the end of this video with a 3D printer idea that I have for a project that's really cool. Measuring success, so teacher feedback is important. Also make sure you reflect on your own teaching and give yourself feedback on what you could have done better for today's lesson, so you know come next time you do this you have that feedback, you know what you should do. Give student feedback on assignments. Ask for a collective student survey over how they feel about certain assignments. We grade on a 1 to 4 scale with formative grades and of course 100% scale on summative. So those formative grades we grade on a scale of 1 to 4. We can just ask the kids, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 4 for today's lesson? So that's just a quick survey. You can do it in a digital way too, using Google Docs, or not Google Docs, but Google Quiz or something like that. Performance metrics, analyze improvements in test scores following tech integration. So integrate certain tech devices to help improve your class's ability to learn. Enhancing assessment with technology. So Google Forms is a good thing for Google Classroom users to use to create tests and quizzes, things like that, and it grades it for you. It's very quick to use. Interactive games like Kahoot. Kahoot is such an amazing and competitive game. Portfolios, digital portfolios, like students can go on Canva and create digital portfolios, and just continue to add to that portfolio if you want to make it into a years-long project. So my future goals is virtual reality, of course, integrating more VR into the classroom, like using VR headsets to go on museum field trips, and we do have access to VR headsets at where I work, and it's amazing. Collaborations, I would love to connect students with other history-based students using Zoom or something like that to where they could learn history together. 3D printing project. So this is the one that I would love to do, and I'm thinking about integrating in the future, is just creating a D&D style game around a historical element in Georgia studies. Like creating a D&D style game on the founding of Georgia or something like that, I think would be amazing. And using a 3D printer to print off those artifacts and those things to use. I think it would be so cool for the kids to do that and create their own game and learn from that. But that's a stretch. I don't know if that will be a thing for me in the future, but I'm definitely going to try to make it happen and experiment with it in the future. So guys, be sure to like and subscribe, my fellow teachers out there. I hope this helped you with thoughts on integrating technology into the classroom. Is very important nowadays to do that, especially if you're an older teacher, because kids can stereotype you. And if you integrate more technology and stuff like that, they're going to be more willing to listen to you and learn. All right, goodbye, y'all.